Okay, so now I've got a short video that I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about straights and curves and the way that they relate to posing, your drawing, and that sort of thing. Obviously, a curve is the opposite of a straight. And I think that the human brain is it's wired to see contrast. I think it goes back to all the way back to when we were prey. Anything, if you're looking at a sea of leaves that all look monotonous, anything that moves is going to catch your eye. Or if you see something out in the grass, when we were out there gathering seeds and roots and that sort of thing, anything that might move out in that sea of grass will catch our eye. And so I think we are wired to see contrast like that. And so putting contrast into your posing, into your drawings, into your character designs will give them more interest and will give them more appeal. Why don't we just go ahead and dive in? I'll just start throwing some examples. Like I said, this is very simple, but it's something that I think about every time that I'm drawing. I learned this a long time ago, back in the early days of my drawing, of my animation days, and I've always come back to it. I always lean on it, and it's a basic character design fundamental. So once again, thinking in terms of straights and curves. Here's a straight, there's a curve. Those together are more interesting. Let's say, for instance, let's say we have a character here. If he looks like this, okay, maybe it's 3/4 like this. This is very, very simple. That's not very interesting. What can be more interesting is if we have a character like this, and let's say we have a straight, and then we have a curve, okay? And then we have a straight here, or actually a curve here, and then a straight, and then a curve, like so. And maybe we have a curve and a straight. That is more of a statement. That is more interesting right here. Think, and straights and curves, they happen naturally in nature. So, and also think about it as, another way of thinking of it is complex against simple. Anytime you have any kind of contrast, it's going to feel better. For instance, let me just show you on some body parts. If you think about, let's say we have a torso going down into the legs. We have a character like this, curve, straight, into the hips, curve, which could go into a straight here. But then here, think of this as, look at this, I can draw this straight all the way down. The hips are going up this way. And look, I'm going to bring this around, curve, right down into the foot, curve, straight, curve. See there? And we'll just draw a knee. This is very, very graphic, but if you think about your posing and your drawing in these graphic terms and then build on top of it, you'll end up with something that's much more dynamic. And so if we have, this curve, which is against the straight, right here, coming down into this straight, and a curve, right into the curve of the foot. Look at this. So, straight, curve. Curve against the straight, straight. And they also tend, you can look at posing and we'll also tend to have alternating straights and curves, meaning like we've got a straight here coming into the curves that we have here. We have, well, this is actually more curve into a straight. So they'll jump back and forth a lot of times, and I'll show you some examples of that. Think about the arm as well. Let's say we have a character. Let's have nice and simple. Even though this is curved, I can do more curved, like complex over here. Simple, complex, right? Simple, complex. So then let's have right here, this is coming down, straight, curves, Right there. There we go. So straight, curve. Now obviously there's going to be more subtlety than this, and this will have some curve to it. There'll be more definition, but from a graphic standpoint, if you can think in these terms, then that's a great place to start, and your drawing will have that much more appeal to it. Let's do another one. You know, thinking about the arm again, and thinking about simple against complex, straight against curve. Here's a straight, straight, relatively straight, I should say. Straight, straight. Okay, so we've got all these straights working like this. Well, then on top of that, you go curve, curve, curve. And what do you got? You got a guy making a muscle. See all that complexity and those curves against all the simplicity, straights. Think of it also like if I showed you a hand, if I drew a hand coming up, usually the area that tends to be against bone will be straight and rigid, and then the area that's more fleshy and muscular will have the curves. And so if I drew a hand, here's the wrist going into the fleshy part of the forearm. Then there's the palm, curve, straight. And I'm going to make them pointing. Curve. See that curve against the straight. And here's a pinky coming in. Curve, curve, curve. See there? Curve. Curve. So that, and here, let's do this. Thumb coming down, curve, straight, straight, curve. See there? So anytime you can add that kind of dynamics to your drawing, starting out, it's just going to have that, you're going to get a leg up on the pose and on the appeal. Let's get into a pose now. So let's say I've got this superhero character. The way I usually start out, I'll start out in these very graphic terms, and then I can build on top of it. So if I have this character that's sitting like this, and let's give him a big, very square jaw. There we go. Like so, there we go. It's going to come down. I'm going to shrink that up because I can tell already it's going to get too big. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to establish this big curve. And if I've got this big curve, big barrel chest, I'm going to go straight. Curve, straight, right? And then I'm going to go straight. There's a curve there, and maybe right into the calf, curve, straight. See that? And then in here, I can do the same thing. That's going to go into his feet, like so. Straight, curve, straight, curve, straight, curve, straight there. And then even into the arms, we can go basically straight, curve, curve, and a straight. And then hands. Like so. I'll bring that up. Draw the other shoulder in, and the other arm coming in like so. And so there's a basis. That's a basis for, a pose. Getting that character in. And then if I want to, I can lighten it up. Whoops, there we go. And I could go in, and then I could add my subtleties, keeping in those, for instance, on the shoulder here. Now, I would want a little definition in here, but at least this, so I'm adding some definition there, but at least I've got this defined first. You see what I mean? Maybe there's a little bit there, but at least the dominant thrusts are straights and curves, like so. You can get the chest in there, and you can add a little bit of complexity, just like so. And that's what that would look like. Okay? So think in those terms. Let's try something else. Let's try a dancer. We'll try one more. Like I said, I wanted this to be very quick, but it's a very simple concept, but it's something that people will tend to forget. So let's say we've got a dancer. Let's do see it from behind, see them from behind. I'm going to do something coming down. I'm just going to scribble this out real quick. So we're going to go straight, curve, like so. Maybe coming up into some shoulders, like here. There we go, up. There we go. You can probably hear a truck going by outside. I apologize. And then here, let's go into the curve, straight, curve. I want this to be nice and dynamic. Hips coming up, curve, straight, like so. And then curve, and I'm going to hyperextend that leg. He's really taking a pose here. It's like there. So we got curve like this, straight, curve in the butt and the hips. Now let's bring this up, curve right into here, and a straight coming in into the knee. And then this, even though the calf is going to come around, I'm going to go predominantly straight like that and emphasize that curve like so. And I'm going to turn that foot away from us. And now let's do the arms. I'm going to go straight. This will go right into curve, and then curve, and straight. And then the arm curves against straights here. There, so you see that? I'll erase this back. Curve, straight, curve. This is curve here, right into that straight. Curve, straight. You see there? Let's do the same thing on this arm over here. So we're going to go straight, curve, then into the forearm, curve, into a straight, like so. And those are basically the rhythms of the arm. And then we'll come down like so. Elbow. But here, very quickly, you can see I've created this dancer with all these rhythms, thinking about all these different rhythms, the straights and the curves, okay? So if I lighten this up, if we were to put a costume on this character and tie it down, then I could go in and I could add the subtleties that I was talking about before. So, we'll come in. Now here, I might have this thing going on, adding some muscle definition. I'm going to have this butt coming around here. That one coming down there. Up into the hips. Know your anatomy. Always know your anatomy. So here, I might add a little bit, we've got the latissimus muscle coming down. The rib cage might be there. So I can add a little bit of definition coming in there. Knee, like so. Shoulder. But predominantly, I'm still holding on to my straights and curves. Like so. I might have a little bit of a curve there, but up here, that's the dominant curve, okay? And the same thing going in here. There's the knee coming down, into the calf, ankle, ankle. Okay? And it goes on and on, so I could finish this out. But think in those terms. Think in terms of straights and curves to give your character something more dynamic. Let's do one more that, you know, maybe it's a real broad cartoony character, sort of like what I did earlier when we first started. You know, if you take your character, you want to do something cartoony, well, let's say I've got this, I don't know, let's do a pig, an upright standing pig. Well, straight, curve, you'll see here, nice and scribbly, curve, right there, into his little hands. And a curve there, and a curve and a straight there, see? Alternating curves and straights. Let's give them big ears, big pig ears. Like so. So even on, you know, broad characters, I would do the same thing. Straight, straight, curve, straight, curve, curve, straight. All right, think in those terms anytime you can. Let me turn these guys back on too. Be really, you know, really try to force yourself to try to think that way. It'll start to come second nature after a while. But and like I said, it's, you know, you don't have to be that graphic in your finished design, but if you can think in those terms when you're laying out your poses and some of your designs, then the posing and the designs themselves will become much more dynamic and much more appealing. Okay, so that's straights and curves. Let's go ahead and move on.